So prior to this signing, having you on, I was going to ask you about your interview with John Harbaugh at the owners' meeting that you conducted for our network, done on the day that he spoke at the owners' meeting, ass in chair, just as thumb hit send from Lamar Jackson on the announcement that he's requested a trade from the Ravens. And now with the signing and what you just said, Tom, are you saying that when you interviewed John Harbaugh on that day and John sat down in front of the whole media saying, hey, he's asked for a trade, that he knew he was and the Ravens were going to meet with Odell Beckham Jr. and knew that Lamar had already talked to Odell and Odell was talking to Lamar, and that Lamar, despite having asked for a trade on March 2nd, was already, talking to everybody, and thus the door wasn't obviously complete shut, like we were all maybe thinking it was. And the whole notion that Lamar would hold out or not show up because he's so angry with everything that goes on, if it was still going on into the summer, could get fixed if they could get Odell Beckham Jr. in the fold. Like, that was all happening as you were talking to John Harbaugh, Tom?
Yes, that's exactly right.
Which is why he was so chill with you. I mean, he was so chill with you, and that's so.
Well, yeah, there's been real uncertainty. Okay, there's been real uncertainty for the Ravens through the course of this offseason. It's why they did due diligence as well on free agent quarterbacks back a month or so ago. It's why they continue to work through it with the draft QBs, because Lamar is a different guy. I think that everyone who has observed this saga understands that. And he also, it's well documented, does not have an agent. So there is a bit of chaos theory that comes into play here, because the way that Lamar has operated through the process does not follow what you would conceive to be the normal steps or the logical steps in a negotiation that goes back, remember, Rich, a couple of years here. The Ravens have been trying to get this done for a while, and no matter what anybody wants to believe, they have offered him at or near the top of the quarterback market. It's just not been the fully guaranteed structure that Lamar has been wanting, which is something that only two quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson and Kirk Cousins, have gotten in recent NFL history on a deal of several years or more. So to the extent that John Harbaugh was taken aback at that breakfast, and he held it together for those 30 minutes as well. I mean, he did the same thing and spoke with a smile on his face and talked confidently about Lamar. When I sat down with him that afternoon, and we talked about other things, because I think that there's more to this offseason than more to the Ravens than Lamar Jackson, even though that's obviously a driving force in it. But I asked him, okay, I assume you've had time to read the tweets now, because what he had at the breakfast was just a reporter going, hey, Lamar tweeted that he wants to trade. Your thoughts? That was how John Harbaugh found out the tweet was out there. And I just said, have you reached out to him? And he said, no, because I don't think that's the coach's place right now. And I'm paraphrasing here, but it was more or less, this is all part of the negotiation. This is all part of the business thing. If Lamar is under center in purple, he's going to be going 100%. And that's what John Harbaugh said. And remember, Rich, back in January, their postseason press conference, and John had said, is 200% chance Lamar's going to be back. We want him here. He wants to be here. I asked him, is that still true? And, the answer wasn't completely direct, which I don't blame John Harbaugh for, because, again, you're trying to read into the thoughts and the tactics of a player who's doing this his own way. And Lamar's done everything his own way through the course of his career. You go back to not hiring an agent coming out of college, having his mom as his advisor. His pre-draft process was a little bit unusual when it came to setting up visits and things like that. He has largely bypassed all the normal marketing deals and everything else, which you would think a player of his stature and his accomplishments as a former NFL MVP would be the face of all kinds of different Fortune 500 companies and shoes and everything else. Lamar has, we now know, is an investor in a little gym in a suitcase that's going to be unveiled this summer. He has a unisex cologne. He has a soul food restaurant. He has a children's book. Like, that's kind of what he's done on the business side with his career. In other words, and I think I've said this to you before, Rich, there's something refreshing about someone who doesn't think of money the way that we all generally do in society, and certainly NFL players do. On the flip side of that, he's put so much money out the door at this point that there may not be a bottom line here. It ends up being in a lot of contract negotiations the bottom line. Hey, this is the best we're going to do right now. Do we take the best deal possible? We've spent weeks or months, or in Lamar's case, years working on this. Do we take this deal now, or do we bet on ourselves? And you take on all the injury risk. You lose out on the time value of money. You know that the salary cap is only going up, so the same dollar tomorrow is not as valuable as it was yesterday. And in a lot of cases, especially when it's a second contract, agents are going to advise players if it's a market standard contract, even if you didn't get everything you wanted to, you're protecting your downside by taking that deal. Lamar's not protected his downside in any way in any of this. And so, again, it's hard to judge anything going on with Lamar right now by anything other than his actions. And the most recent actions we have with Lamar are continuing to negotiate with the Ravens, being an active participant in the successful recruitment of Odell Beckham Jr., and Lamar tweeting out right after something about his soul food restaurant being closed on Easter, tweeting out the photo from him FaceTiming Odell right after the deal got done. You would look at all that and say, as you put it, Rich, well, Odell must know something. I think that everybody is reading Lamar's actions here, but in terms of is something done, has Lamar given up on doing an offer sheet someplace else? Is this all over? Lamar's back in the Ravens uniform? It was never over in the first place that Lamar was gone, regardless of what he tweeted. Now we're just in a place where, the Ravens have paid $15 million, maybe $18 million to give him something that you would certainly think that he wanted in Odell Beckham Jr. Let's now see what, if any, impact that has on negotiations that have not seemed to be impacted by a whole lot over the past couple of years.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.